And here's the battle, by the way, against a full hammerhead. My friend up in the size 5 turret is adding his 2800 DPS to the table, and I bring my 3300 with these 4 size 4 attritions, and that hammerhead doesn't stand the slightest chance. Look at my shields in the top left. It's barely scratching them. And of course, full disclosure, my friend in the Andromeda has also fired a couple of shots, but he had to retreat very quickly because he also took some shots. And there it is, boom, hammerhead destroyed. This freaking quickly, man. Did I just stumble upon our next daily driver in Star Citizen? Is this our saving grace after the 4.2.1 update in the PTU that kind of ruined our daily drivers Corsair and Taros for us? Is the Starfarer Gemini, or even just a regular Starfarer, maybe our replacement? Let's go and find out, because this thing has a lot going for it. It's actually surprisingly maneuverable, being a ship in the size of a C2. It has less firepower, but 3 times the shield capacity of Corsair and Taros, to the point where it's almost impossible for most ships to even destroy this one, especially if it's good at turning around and doing shield ping pong with its different sides. And it also has so much more cargo space than the Taros or Corsair had. It can refuel your friends and their ships. I mean, dude, this thing has a lot going for it. So if this was to be an interesting alternative, that would be amazing. So let's continue with my honest ship review right here and figure out if that's an actual possibility. Now, that was a bit of a longer intro, but you can expect the following content here. A little world record that I'm setting up, a ship tour, paint jobs, stats and loadouts, ship alternatives, ship combat scenarios, ship refueling attempts, how much goes inside the ship, detail testing, and my honest conclusion at the end. Okay, so first about this little world record. I'm not sure if it's a world record, but I was just trying to jump to my friend by having my quantum marker at a random point behind him and just drop out next to him whenever I feel like I'm close. And this is what I got. I got 22 kilometers close to him by randomly just dropping out of quantum, man. I mean, it's gonna be difficult to make it better than that, I would assume. So, my challenge to you. Okay, but let's start here getting the fuel targeting ship up. That's the one that we want to fuel, the Idris, okay? So we're launching it here from Area 18. We've made a couple of jumps. We've flown around a little so that both types of fuels kind of need to be recharged, at least can be recharged. So the Idris is ready for that. Now also we're getting what we need. That's an important part of all my reviews, getting the right tool for the job, and the right weapons right now for a ship like the Starfarer are attrition 4s and attrition 5s. The Gemini needs the 5s. The regular Starfarer would just use 6 times size 4. Okay, the other size 3s I would keep ballistic in if you really want to max it out. So let's get that ship out and start with the ship tour, okay? And again, just looking at the ship from the front, this here being the Gemini, looks absolutely dreadful. With those rockets coming out at the front, those 9 size 3s, the weapon hardpoints left and right being shown properly, even the double size 5 standing over the roof, looking really dangerous. And this ship reminds me a little bit about these hovercrafts or these attack crafts from the movie Avatar. It just has something aggressive to it. The only way to get into the ship is by lowering the ramp that leads into the cargo storage area. I've accelerated the ship tour for you because this is by far the most convoluted and complicated ship to walk around that I've ever seen. And also, I was warned by my friends, it has the best bed of all the captain's beds. I'll show you in a minute, okay? So this space here is huge for cargo. You can store so much more than the 300 SCU that the ship is supposed to have according to its grid size. Then in the second level, once going up the elevator, you get to this catwalk where you can also see the inside of your cargo, as well as the catwalk outside that leads to the instruments that allow you to refuel incoming ships. You can deploy the refueling boom and so on. From here you can check even the status of your tanks, how full are they, and so on. Very cool. I like that a lot. There's also 2 additional elevators leading up to the 3rd level, which we're exploring later. We're not taking the elevators right now. There's consoles everywhere showing the status of those tanks, and in the cockpit you have again the same refueling terminal that you have seen on the catwalk back, so you can do the same thing also from here. You don't actually have to leave through the ship and get back into that outside area. You can do it from inside. And again, just looking at that ship, it looks fantastic. I love the looks on that ship, seriously. This looks like a really dangerous military vessel, if you ask me, and it is. Even just piloted controlled, you're able to do so much with these 3 strong shield generators that you have, and those 4 size 4s combined with the agility that the ship somehow has. Don't ask me how it has that. It is really agile, I'll show you later. And then just bringing a second guy in there, controlling 2,800 more DPS in that double size 5 above you with great coverage is insane. Now you see we're fueling the Quantum and the hydrogen tanks. We're filling it up. Somehow we can only fill 1.5 tanks here manually. But you do this by choosing manual, filling the bars, and then paying for it. We just paid 200-something thousand for the hydrogen, and Quantum was basically for free. So one of them is expensive, the other is basically has no price. Wait, I just reversed that. The other one is expensive. The hydrogen is almost for free, and Quantum is a bit more expensive nowadays. Alright, so then we get into the 3rd level. As you can see here, also from the Brits, it's not far. You have a male and female bathroom. Very interesting. Very few ships have that. You have a nice bunk bed room with a lot of beds. And up in the 3rd level is also the double size 5 manned turrets. With, in that case, like I've shown you purchased before, the size 5 attrition guns that bring about 2,800 DPS from right here. So fighting larger ships, this is the one that will really hurt, bringing about the same DPS as your 4 size 4s that the pilot has, which means that if you have an additional crew member, he's not going to feel insignificant manning that turret. He's going to feel extremely significant and powerful. And let me show you that most awesome bed in all of Star Citizen. There it is. That's the one I was warned about. Look at that little bed sheet. So cute. With little space astronauts and moons and rockets. And then there's even more up here. Like, it's so convoluted. I'm telling you, if you walk around, you can get lost. There's even this little side area that looks like this is where Alien was shot. The Alien movies were made. Yeah, we're in some sort of outside between area here. I don't know what all of that is. And these corridors, they are on the left and on the right, and they lead back to the on the head turned size 3 turrets coming out the back of the ship. So when you're going in there, like, you turn around and you're on your head now. As for ship skins, in addition to their natural ones, the black one, Foundation Festival, Light Gray, and Storm Surge exist. Let's look at the stats and numbers as well as some preferred fitting for you guys to use both ships at. They're virtually the same ship. The difference here is the Starfarer Gemini gets a size 5 manned turret on the top, whereas the regular Starfarer only has a size 4 twice. And the Gemini also gets 9 size 3 rockets on the front, whereas the regular Starfarer is supposed to be able to collect fuel with that front intake and turn it into fuel, and have its own little refinery going on inside, which it can't do right now in the game, but that is its purpose in the future, to be making its own fuel along the way. But for now, both ships are extremely similar. They both have 3 shield generators. They come with different coolers. That's why I removed all of the coolers, which I would also suggest you guys to do. That frees up more, power plant points or power points for full weapons and full shields at the same time. And when you do that, you can have attrition 4 mounted to both of them, bringing you to 3,350 DPS pilot controlled, and the man turret on the Starfarer gets to 1,700 DPS with 2 size 4 attritions, whereas the double size 5 on the Gemini gets to 2,800 DPS. That is a drastic damage increase for that second man in the Gemini. That means this is really a powerhouse to deal with, especially due to those 3 shield generators. That parapet would be the best ones. Power plant you can keep as they are. They're almost perfect already. And then I would go to the Erebus Quantum Drive, which you can buy. Great speed, great range, decent efficiency, short cooldown time, amazing drive to put in here. And for the other weapons, I would go with ballistics, deadbolt, or some other ballistics, because that increases the laser firepower of your ship even further, because you have more energy available for for that. Also interesting to note is the regular Starfarer comes with a size 10 mount on that double size 4 man turret, whereas the Starfarer gets a size 12 mount somehow. I don't know why, but that is what it is. Hit point wise, pretty much the same amount of HP. Also mobility, all the same. If we compare those stats here in the bottom right, you see basically nothing changes, only tiny little things. However, interestingly enough, the claim time is a different one, almost twice as long for the Gemini, despite those being basically the same ships, right? Even this SCU cargo stays the same between the militarized or non-militarized version. However, remember that you can fit a lot more than those 300 SCU into that Starfarer. I show you this in just a moment. And regarding the fittings, if you're fighting more smaller ships with smaller missions, then of course you don't need the attritions, you can go with Galderines and Rhinos. One of my most favorite thing to do in ship reviews is to give you alternatives as well, to compare it to other ships so you have more options. The Starfarer or its militarized Gemini version, you can find a similar thing over at Crusader Industries with the Starlifter C2 and M2. Both ships have more cargo capacity, but less travel distance, less player controlled firepower, one entirely less shield generator, and a lot less mobility and flexibility in combat. You're much slower in turning, rotating, and controlling the ship. So while these ships stay completely out of combat at all times, whenever they can, the Starfarer can very easily go as a complete all-rounder to do cargo, to do combat very well, even just player controlled. And if you have a second guy, he's gonna add a lot to that firepower and combat role as well. So much better combat ship, but for transport alone, of course, Caterpillar, C2, M2, and even the small Mercury Star Runner could be a nice alternative if you're really not looking for combat at all. I also thought to include the Carrack, because the Carrack also features a decent amount of cargo, more in fact on grid than the Gemini, and it also is a multi-purpose ship. It can be okay in combat, although you as a player don't have a weapon, and it has a separate role. Like the Gemini can refuel ships and have combat and transport and so on. Now the Carrack has all that too, except it's not refueling ships, it is an expedition ship with advanced scanning technology. So this is something I thought I put it in as a comparison, although it is a very different style of play and not necessarily a direct competitor like the other ones that I've shown here. And when you come to combat, if you're less interested in full transport role and a little more interested in the combat effectiveness that the Gemini brings, or the the Starfarer over there, then we have the combat alternatives being the Constellation Taurus, always one of my most favorite thing to advise to you to get. It's an insanely good daily driver and all-rounder with a lot of SCU capacity, heavy firepower for the player controlled, even additional turrets for your gunners if you want to do multi-crew. It has good quantum range. There's only really one downside that's new with the recent PTU update, where they took a lot of the maneuverability from the Corsair as well as the Taurus and making them much less mobile, actually to basically the same level as the Starfarer, which kind of makes a buff for the Starfarer because it has a more yaw but less pitch than the Corsair and Taurus, right? Interesting, being a bigger ship with 3 times the shield capacity. But nonetheless, Taurus and Corsair are both wonderful daily drivers that I can advise you anytime to get. The Starlancer Max is a little more what the Gemini is, a little more bulky and large, featuring a decent cargo capacity on the sides down below, having a hangar on the backside additionally for more space, having the same 4x 4 pilot controlled and additional firepower coming from the remote turrets. But it does fill the role as an alternative to the Starfarer pretty well, although my actual favorite has become the Starfarer now compared to the Starlancer or even the Starlancer TAC for that reason. However, almost nothing can beat the efficiency of Taurus and Corsair in a direct comparison when it comes to how much you get. Now, let's spin this a little further. In the future, we will get other alternatives to the Starfarer Gemini and Starfarer. That will be the Ironclad and the Ironclad Assault as the Gemini militarized version of it, with a little less cargo, but a lot more DACA, more firepower, quad size, quad turrets instead of double turrets, for instance, and more armor, perhaps more shielding. And in the future also, the Galaxy will be an interesting ship to compare it to, because the Galaxy also fills a multitude of different roles. It is actually a modular ship that can be a refinery, a cargo ship, a medical ship, and so on, depending on what modules you put inside. It can also defend itself pretty well, I'm assuming. We don't yet know exactly what kind of shield it's gonna get, but it has a few similarities to the Starfarer. But if you really ask me for a direct comparison, that would be here in terms of transport, these ones, or in terms of combat role, it would be these ones. That would be your best alternatives to the Starfarer if you're not quite ready to get the Starfarer, but you want to see what other options there are. Now, we're coming into combat, and I do realize this is becoming a really long video, but for a ship guide and an honest review, I feel like this, I want to be as thorough as I can to give you all the information. And also, I'm using the pinned comment below. Whenever something is outdated, for instance, that in the future you can no longer remove coolers. For example, if that was to happen, I would use the pinned comment to update this video to stay relevant and to give you all the necessary information when something has changed. So make sure to check that pinned comment. While you're at it, maybe leave a like and comment down below. And if you want to see more such very thorough reviews, then stay tuned. I really love doing those, okay? It's one of my most favorite things to do in Star Citizen, aside from keeping you up to date on news, making those detailed ship reviews. And boy, do I have a lot of work cut out for me. Okay, so we're firing these a quad salvo of size 3s against that gladiator, and boom, one hit and it's gone. That just shows the additional options that the Gemini has compared to the regular Starfarer. While both of them are great combat ships too, the Gemini has that added danger of those nice 9 size 3 missiles, as well as that size 5 on top. My friend firing from up top is firing with almost 3000 DPS, just by sitting in that one turret, moving his mouse and having the left mouse button pressed. That is 3000 DPS for you. And this is exactly how I want a multi-crew ship for 2 people to be. I want that the second guy feels not in any way insignificant. Although he's not controlling the ship, he's adding a level of firepower that is insane, okay? And this is how it feels good for him as well. If we're sitting in an Andromeda, I fire 4 size 5s, you know? and my buddy on top is firing double size 3s. It doesn't feel very rewarding, right? But here, it absolutely does. And even the 4 size 4 firepower coming from the front is really strong. That is basically the same DPS that he's got above me, right? And combining this with the 3 shields, which we're going to make a fun test now. My 4 size 5 attrition friend with his Andromeda is firing. Look at the left side of our shield. I have so much time to turn the ship sideways, then towards him, then further, and do proper shield ping pong, because I have 3 size 3 shields. Dude, that is so much shield energy. I can just shield ping pong him empty until he is empty. Now he's empty. He fired and empty everything he's had in that Taurus or Andromeda with those 4 size 5 attritions in insane firepower. He wasn't even able to put the slightest dent into this ship, because look how fast it turns. Now we're doing a tiny bit of a combat scenario where he's actually engaging me while I'm just trying to fight back. He's trying to shoot the same side of my ship continuously while I'm just making it impossible for him. And you'll see that the mobility of the ship, now he's firing from behind and I'm turning. You see he's already no longer hitting perfectly the same shield. I'm rotating so fast, turning around after him. He cannot hit the same side of my shield for as long as he wants, not in that Andromeda. And what he ends up having to do is constantly firing into recharging shields all around with so much shield energy that he's going to be empty and he's not going to do any real damage. Whereas meanwhile, I will, if I front boost and then back strafe away from him, I will definitely get him in sight. And then the firepower of 4 size 4s are going to end him. Honestly, an Andromeda or a Corsair cannot beat the Starfarer. The Starfarer simply has too much shield energy. This is a mind blow moment for me. I did not see that coming. For me, the Corsair and Andromeda were like or Taurus for that matter, were like the ideal, most powerful ships you can use as a solo pilot. And then I find by accident stumble over the Gemini, see the potential that these 3 shields give you, and how fast it maneuvers. I mean, just look how easily we're able to follow the movement on the enemy Connie there. Dude, that is nuts. It controls really well. And since it does that, it can fight back and it can overwhelm even those perfect daily drivers such as Corsair or Andromeda. Another situation, imagine coming in for a bunker kill. You have these 4 bunker turrets on the bottom. An Andromeda or a Corsair is really having a hard time getting in there, destroying all 4 turrets before your shields fail. That is extremely difficult, especially when the server performance plays well. With this thing here, you just come in, you whoop all 4 turrets before your shields are gone. It really blew my mind when I realized the potential here, but there is one insane drawback that I haven't mentioned yet. It's the forward SCM speed of only 106 meters per second. It almost seems like CIG made a mistake there because it's just so much too slow. But aside from this one flaw, it's great. I never had this in the back of my head that people could use this ship as a solo daily driver. Never. And now it's becoming one of my most favorites, and I believe I will actually suggest this more often going forward. I'll keep testing it. I also keep test the regular Starfarer versus the Gemini, but for a solo pilot there is basically no difference other than having those 9 size 3 additional missiles available to you. It's pretty awesome, of course, but with the missile prices, I don't know. And here's the battle, by the way, against a full hammerhead. My friend up in the size 5 turret is adding his 2800 DPS to the table, and I bring my 3300 with these 4 size 4 attritions, and that hammerhead doesn't stand the slightest chance. Look at my shields in the top left. It's barely scratching them. And of course, full disclosure, my friend in the Andromeda has also fired a couple of shots, but he had to retreat very quickly because he also took some shots. And there it is, boom, hammerhead destroyed. This freaking quickly, man. I am so impressed with the performance of the Gemini, and that really gave me, like, it was eye-opening to see, wow, there is actually one more ship to think about. But I do have to stress the issue with the 106 meters per second SCM speed. That is going to become very annoying to you over time. Same as the limited view out of the cockpits. Same as the other MISC ships have, the Starlancer TAC, Starlancer Max, and so on. Better get used to it. And you saw he just also destroyed that fast fighter. I didn't even have to turn my ship at it because he has very good coverage with his gun on top. I'm super impressed with the performance of the Starfarer, and I'm really telling you guys, this is a hidden gem. This may be one of the most underrated daily drivers I've ever seen in Star Citizen. And I am the guy who loves daily drivers. I've tried the 600 Eyes so much. I love the ship. I'm using it as a daily driver. Same as the Taurus, or same as the Corsair, right? The Starlancer TAC or Max. I use them all as daily drivers, and they can be used for that. I tried the same with the Caterpillar. I've tried it with the C2. Lacking the firepower and the mobility, that's really just ruining for me. But this one here, friends, my goodness, is that an awesome all-rounder, I'm telling you. So yeah, now we're coming to the part of refueling, which is actually the purpose of the ship. Yeah. Alright, so now let's come to the attempts of refueling. Attempts because something is going wrong. You see how fantastic it looks like when you're standing here at the catwalk and your friend comes over with an Idris, for example, wants to be refueled. And this is, by the way, going to be very important, I assume, in the future when quantum fuel prices are rising again, which I'm sure they will at some point. When distances between star systems and points are increasing, you know, when missions send you further and further around. Then you have a buddy with you that offers not just a great daily driver with the ability to carry a lot of cargo and add a ton of firepower and shield performance, like combat performance, to the mix, but then also bringing the option to refuel you. I mean, how much do you want from one ship? This thing's got you covered. So we've extended the boom stick, the boom arm for fueling. We've set auto prices. I've accepted his docking request, so we're ready, right? So technically, all he needs to do is find the sweet spot for the auto docking, enable the auto docking, and we're ready to roll, right? It says something about pod management that I may have to do. Okay, we may have to look into that too, but now he couldn't find the moment where he can do the auto docking. So I switched into the Idris, and now I'm doing it myself, and I'm holding the button, and then eventually I actually find it. I actually find the spot from where the Idris wants to auto dock for the refueling process. And this is going to happen right now. I'm no longer controlling anything. The ship does everything by itself right here. It's going back, it's going up, it's going forward, and then I thought it will go slow down, but it doesn't, and boom! It just rams into the back of the Starfarer, breaking off the refueling arm, and there it is that's it, boom. Another half hour wasted of us trying to, now we have to repair the ship and get ready for another attempt. Which we're doing right here. This time I'm gonna try and refuel the Andromeda from my friend Gianni here, and so the boom arm is extended, and we're ready to roll. So he's gonna come in now, start the docking request, which I'm gonna accept, and then he's trying to find that sweet spot where you start the auto docking, and then he found it. You see, the ship is now auto docking, it's doing everything by itself, and look what happens next. Boop! What? Okay, so my friend didn't disappear, he reappeared, but you know what, my Starfarer is gone. Great. I wonder what would have happened if I had been standing on the Starfarer at that moment. What would have happened then? Would I have been teleported somewhere into the sun, or what happened? But the thing is, now that we have ship markers, I can actually find my ship. And I see it's about 500 kilometers this way, and it's moving fast. It's flying around with like 700 meters per second or so in some direction. Just teleported away. And it happened at the moment when the constellation was making contact with that refueling arm per auto docking. So it should do everything all by itself correctly, right? But yeah, maybe we were in combat, maybe something was damaged. I don't know, you see there is a red spot in the front. I don't know, but it just seems like I can't get it to work. Either I got really unlucky with some really, or maybe the PTU where we did that somehow wasn't ready for it. In any case, you saw I caught my ship, I caught up with it, and we're now 1 kilometer away from it, and it's not here. It is just a ship marker that's roaming through space, without the actual ship being there. I'm even going to fly through it in just a second. Yeah, so that means my ship literally dematerialized in the moment when, you know, when it was supposed to start the refueling process. Alright, 2 more things here in this video that I have to do. First, we're gonna figure out how much fits into the cargo. It says 291 or 92 SCU grid cargo, but that doesn't give you any information about how much you can get inside. You cannot auto fit 32 SCU boxes, by the way. 24 are the highest you'll get in there, and not many of them. Maybe 4 or something, I don't know, maybe 6, but you can auto load with 8 SC boxes a lot, but even with that, you won't fill up all your storage. If you want to do it with auto loading, you kind of have to use size 2 SCU boxes too, which, however, I think the strength of the cargo space is how much you can really get in there and how easily. You can fit 32 SCU boxes, no problem, and a lot of them if you just do it manually, okay? Yeah, so we're landing at Seraphim station here, where they have, for example, waste that I can buy for basically no price, and just store it around. Also, we're going to try and figure out if a vehicle goes in. We're trying the Ursa Medic Rover, and spoiler alert, it does fit very well. I'm not going to comment on the rest that you're seeing here when it comes to the fitting process of boxes too much. You'll see what I'm going to do. I'm auto-loading it first with 8 SCU boxes, because I figured this might be like the most that you can get in quickly and easily. 22 boxes, that is what is that, 176 SCU. It's basically almost the cargo capacity of a Taurus, but you see there's still a lot of cargo left. And in terms of double 2 SCU boxes, you could still fit 110 SCU in there. But yeah, like I said, the real strength is how much you can really get in here if you just get down to it and fit the boxes with 32s, for instance. I'm just gonna bring a bunch to show you how much. I'm not calculate how much the maximum will be, but I feel like you could probably get in there maybe 500-600 SCU if you start, you know, putting it right in there with good boxes and you do it right. But it's just a rough estimate right now. I just know there's so much more room. So let's come to my conclusion, my friends. You'll see the medic rover being placed in a minute as well. I think like I said, the Gemini, especially the Gemini, is really a hidden gem when you are also interested in bringing an all-round combat ship around that has the ability to refuel your fleet of friends, but has also the ability to just bring one guy in there and you can freaking brawl with hammerheads. I mean, how many ships can do that, right? That is absolutely insane. And single-handedly, the reason why I say this is actually such an underrated ship with the amount of shielding it's got. There was an update not too long ago when it got these 3 shields, and that changed everything. Yeah, the fact that a C2 only has 2 shields, a Starlancer TAC only has 2 shields, a Starlancer Max only has 1 shield, Corsair Andromeda only 1 shield, Caterpillar, I believe, has 3 as well, or does it have 2? Need to look that up. But that is really the game changer here, and that is being extremely generous with the Starfarer here. Whoops. But yeah, you see, you can get the shield, the 32 SC boxes, you can get them lengthwise, you can get them sideways, you can get them on top of each other. Dude, you could store a ton of freaking loot in here. However, I'm throwing out the last box again so we can fit the Orza rover. The price point of the ship, of course, is not super cheap. It's for the regular Starfarer, or 300, and 340, I believe, for the Gemini. So it's not the cheapest ship. It's definitely higher priced than a Taurus is, and also higher than the Corsair. So if you want the best bang for the buck, those ships just stay the best bang for the buck always, especially for a solo pilot, but even when you do stuff with 1 or 2 friends from time to time. But yeah, if between the 2 ships, I would go with the Gemini. Those $40 more, in my opinion, are really worth the extra firepower for the second man, as well as those rockets. And if you want to bring something super exotic into the fleet of your friends that does not only add an incredible amount of combat performance to every battle with that much shield energy, but also has the ability to fuel the ships. So this is something very rare to add, and then being bigger and tougher than Corsairs and Connies, that is really placing the Gemini as a very attractive ship for me in the list here, and I'm gonna start recommending this more often from now on, because this is really a hidden gem in my opinion, friends. I'm not joking. And a great daily driver and all-rounder, and but once again, I also have to include this here, 106 meters per second, SCM speed, absolute crazy slow. It's slower than an Idris, and it makes no sense whatsoever that it is that slow. I'm hoping there is an update for it coming. And also very limited view out of the cockpit. If that's a no-no for you, then this might not be your ship. And one more thing I've noticed is that I had a battle, or many missions I was running over a long period of time. Enemies never broke through my shield, but eventually after 9 missions or so, I got soft deathed through my full active shielding. So there seems to be some kind of weak spot that, if hit repeatedly enough, can lead to the destruction of your ship despite having absolutely full shields. Probably I've been hit by a lot of projectile-based weapons for long periods of time. So yeah, be aware of that as well, please. Yeah, let me know what you think about it. Maybe you want to try it yourself. So thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Manni signing off. Bye-bye, my friends.